I want to start tonight's show by taking you through a story that I think demonstrates just how out of touch the media is with many Australians. It starts with the case of climate activist Deanna Violet Coco.
For this, Deanna Violet Coco has spent the past 11 days in prison. In April, she brought peak hour traffic to a standstill on the Harbour Bridge and pleaded guilty to using a flare and resisting arrest.
That's right, Violet Coco, as she likes to be called, was jailed before being released on bail ahead of her appeal. And for many in the media, the narrative was very prominent that a 15-month jail sentence was way too harsh.
The climate change activist had been refused bail while she waits for her 15-month prison sentence to be reviewed. But today a judge agreed with her lawyers. Violet Coco shouldn't be locked up for now.
I'm glad that she's out. I was very worried about her.
It was hell, completely unjust for someone that was just trying to exercise their human right.
Exercise her human right? How noble of Coco. And the Guardian star political reporter Amy Ramikas weighed in saying, seems the worst thing you can do in this country is hold up traffic on the Harbour Bridge for 25 minutes. No, Amy, if you even bothered to read anything about this case, you would know Coco's protest stopped a New South Wales ambulance, which had deployed its lights and sirens from attending an emergency. According to The Australian, documents submitted to the court, which the judge considered, said this: the actions today have not only caused serious disruption to peak hour traffic, but this imposition to traffic prevented an ambulance responding to an emergency under lights and sirens as it was unable to navigate through the increased heavy traffic as previously mentioned. This imposition to a critical emergency service has the potential to result in fatality. This isn't a case of people being inconvenienced. It is a case of a woman so stupid and so arrogant that she blocked an ambulance trying to help someone in a critical situation. But the nuance was lost on journalists at Crikey, who ran an uncritical opinion piece from the convicted criminal on their website. Extraordinarily, in the piece, Coco alleges she was threatened with sexual assault and even starved by police. She writes, protest work is not fun. It's stressful, resource-intensive, scary, and the police are violent. They refuse to feed me, refuse to give me toilet paper, and have threatened me with sexual violence. Now, we checked with New South Wales Police, who assure us these claims are not credible, and Coco never even filed a complaint with them before airing the allegations. Police even told us on the record, quote, during this time, custody records show the woman was provided with meals, specifically lunch and dinner, as well as beverages. She was also provided with toilet breaks throughout the time in custody at Day Street Police Station. No complaints have been received by New South Wales Police regarding this process. So, why would Coco make up this elaborate story to the media about being threatened with sexual violence and starved by police? Maybe this fundraiser will give you an idea. The Get Violet Out of Prison fundraiser on website Chuffed has raised a disturbing $82,000. The allegations of being starved and threatened with sexual assault are contained in her sob story on the website, where she asks for money. Now, did one journalist think to simply pick up the phone and call police before supporting this woman? And do you think she has learnt her lesson from her short stay in prison? Well, no. Coco told her fans on the fundraiser that now she was out of jail, she would be right back to protesting. She writes, on Saturday, I'll be joining a protest at Sydney Town Hall at 2 p.m. to call for the overturning of the new regressive laws with a range of groups. Well, hopefully no ambulances get held up this time. Well, let's bring in tonight's panel, and I'm pleased to say I'm joined by lawyer and commentator Caroline DeRusso and Sky News contributor James McPherson. James, why don't we start with you? Violet Coco, the saga, it's been carrying on a lot in the media. What do you make of the fact that she's managed to raise $82,000 for her legal fights?
What's the old expression, a fool is quickly parted with his money? And I think it's a classic example. But, I mean, you know, just the other day we had a Greens politician stand on the steps of the courthouse saying she's not the criminal, the government is the criminal for promoting fossil fuels. We had the United Nations General Secretary say recently that the protesters are not the extremists, it's governments who promote fossil fuels. And more recently, the United Nations spokesperson on free assembly said that this was a very concerning thing, that poor Coco would be jailed for, you know, holding up traffic, endangering livelihoods and, as you said, potentially endangering lives. There's one side to this narrative that is completely played, and that is that, you know, the world is on fire and so therefore anything is justified, and people start to buy into it and believe it because we have an uncritical, unthinking media, as you pointed out.
Yeah, Caroline, James makes such a good point. It's the uncritical, one-sided way it's been reported. And when I look at this, celebritising this woman and turning her into some kind of champion of the climate change movement, it actively encourages people to do stunts like this, which can result in ambulances being held up.
Yeah, precisely. And the issue is not that she's not allowed to protest. It's that she can't protest on the Harbour Bridge and block traffic. By all means, go to a local park, get your flag out, wave it, your bongo drums, whatever you like. Knock yourself out, sweetheart. But you do not get to block ambulances. And what is really interesting here is when you look at how different the treatment of Coco is compared to the protests that we had during the lockdown. Now, back then, governments were locking us up in our houses and they weren't being described as extremists. They were being described as saving our lives. And the people who were protesting, you know, there was a lot of conversation about how they were breaking restrictions and whatever, but the same media that is supporting Coco wanted those protesters dragged out in the street along with the guillotine and sorted out.